Hello everyone, welcome back. Here is Ali Talabi and we're going to wrap up Module 5. So I'm going to review a few notes and some common mistakes, and then we'll look at a few questions and I will answer those questions as well. So in this module, we'll talk about TVM or time value of money. One of the major notes we mentioned was regarding APR and EAR. So I mentioned that annual percentage rate, which is also known as quoted rate, that's what you see in the news, that's what you see in the mortgage, that's what you see when you receive the loan from the bank, that's what you see when actually you get your credit card. But you have to be careful because the more relevant rate here is EAR, effective annual rate. Effective annual rate includes or considers the interest on interest. So make sure next time when you are getting a quote, you are calculating the EAR yourself. We talk about EAR and how to calculate EAR based on APR. It depends on the frequency of compounding or the frequency of payment. Even if the nominal quoted interest rate is positive, you might end up with a negative real interest rate, which means you lose your money. So we talk about real interest rate, we talk about the nominal interest rate. As I mentioned, one of the major factors which you have to consider when you make a decision regarding investment is inflation. In hyperinflationary economies, even paying the higher interest rate doesn't mean that you are making money or you are getting positive return. If the inflation is high in a way that actually it dominates the nominal interest rate, you might end up losing your money. So be careful. Next time you have to consider the inflation as a major factor on nominal interest rate. So you have to take out the impact of inflation, and whatever is left, it's called real interest rate. So if you don't recall the notion of real interest rate, I encourage you to go back to the third module, actually the fifth module, the third part, when we talk about the real interest rate and nominal interest rate. Do not underestimate the power of compounding, interest on interest. We compared the simple interest with the compound interest, and you notice how fast the compounding can increase your money over time. So interest on interest, that's a very important notion when you calculate your return and your total return. You need to consider the interest on interest as well. Again, when it comes to time value of money, I highly encourage you to use a financial calculator like the one I'm using. That's a BA2 Plus. There are several versions. This one is a CFA approved. That's one of the reasons I'm using in my classes as well. So I highly encourage you to use this financial calculator or any other financial calculator. It's easy, fast, and the chance of mistake is very low when you're using calculator. And also you need to learn how to use your calculator. You don't want to spend like 15 minutes in the exam or quiz, just figure out what's going on here. Just become familiar with your calculator, learn how to use it, and it's much more efficient. Also, we talk about different type of annuities. By default, we go with ordinary annuity, which means the payments are happening at the end. But when it comes to annuity due, it means the payments are happening at the beginning of the period. For example, when you're paying your rent, usually you're paying your rent at the beginning of the month. So that's a type of annuity due. When you're using your calculator, be careful. In this calculator, you need to change the setting from ending to beginning. So if you're switching from ordinary to annuity due, make sure you are changing the setting on this calculator, and then later change it back to the ordinary annuity. So that's it for today regarding the notes. Now let's look at the questions related to module 5. Here are the questions. The first question: in 5 years, how much would be a deposit of $1,000 in a bank account will be? So again, when you read the question, just make sure you understand which parts you have here. First of all, we're talking about the 5 years. So Again, I'm going with the famous 5 variable factors here. So we talk about PV here, PMT, and finally future value. We are talking about 5 years, so your N here is 5. You have $1,000, that's your deposit, so $1,000. Again, if you deposit the money, that's a cash outflow, so it's better to use a negative sign here, minus $1,000. What else we have? It pays compound interest at a 10% rate. So that 10%, that's your annual interest rate. So that 10%. How much of the ending balance would be interest on interest? Now, what's happening here? We have 2 parts here. First part is asking for how much you will have at the end of year 5. Again, it's much better to have a timeline here. It's year 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you want to know when you are investing that $1,000, 5 years from now, how much money you will have. That's pretty much the question. So there is no payment, just there is one lump sum payment. You're looking for the future value. So let's use our calculator. There are several ways you can answer this question. You can either use the calculator or you can use the future value formula. I'm going with my calculator. So 5N10I, PV 1000 negative, payment 0, and you are computing the future value. So the number I have here, as you see, it's 1,610. So to be more specific, it is, so the future value is $1,610.5. So that's the value. So the answer should be either A or C. The second part is asking you to find the interest on interest. So we know we're talking about interest on interest, and you know that if you go with the simple interest approach, on annual basis, you are earning 10%. So the 10% is 10% of $1,000 is $100. So after 5 years, you should earn $500. So that $500, that's your just simple interest. Again, how I got that? It's for 5 years, $100. This is the annual interest rate. This is after 5 years. So this is the interest. So this is just the interest on principal. That $500, that's your interest on principal. But you can see from here that it's not $500. It's $610.5 that you earn interest in total. $1,000, remember, that's the principal. Take out that money. How much is left? $610.5. Now, the difference here becomes $610.5, $500. That's a simple interest, just the interest. This is the interest on interest. The difference is $110. So this is your total interest. This is just the interest on principal. So whatever is left, it's your interest on interest. So the answer should be A, $110.51. That's the interest on interest portion. Let's look at the next question. How long should you wait to the nearest year for an initial investment of $500 to triple in value if the investment earns 10% on annual basis? So whenever we talk about the time, see how long, you're talking about N. So again, back to our argument regarding the time value of money. Here are actually you're looking for N. So what else we have here? The initial investment is $500. So present value is $500. Again, we assume that you are investing now, that's cash outflow. You want to triple this money, which means you want to increase the value to $1,500. So your cash outflow is $500. You expect to receive $1,500 some years from now, which you don't know that. So you want to figure out the timeline here. But you know the annual interest rate is 10%, and for sure there is no payment. We are talking about just one investment, which is $500. That's how you fill the gaps. That's how you are going to use your calculator to find the number of years. So I skip N, I don't have N, I is 10%, 10I, PV is $500 negative, payment is 0, future value is $1,500, you are computing N. So you see when you enter these numbers, it gives you N as high as 11.52. Here is saying to the nearest year. So the nearest year I have in the options is 12 years. So it takes 12 years for you to triple your money from $500 to $1,500. Remember, the tricky point here is how you are dealing with the cash flow. I put the present value as cash outflow. I put the future value as cash inflow. If you don't follow this rule, if you just go with both positive cash flow or negative cash flow, you will receive an error message. So be careful that you're dealing with these cash flows on opposite direction. Now let's look at the next question. You purchased a stock for $5,000 and sold it 5 years later for $12,000. What is the annual growth rate or annual return? You're looking for I. Again, there are several ways you can answer this question. Either you can use the financial calculator or you can use the formula for the future value. If you use the formula, just be careful because you need to rearrange the formula, rewrite the formula. So it might be a bit confusing. So let's go with the financial calculator. So what we have here, you're purchasing the stock $5,000. So that's $5,000. How much you are paying for that? Minus or negative $5,000. Again, that's a cash outflow. And sold it 5 years later. So your N here is 5 for $12,000. So you receive $12,000. That's your future value. Again, that's a cash inflow. There is no payment meanwhile, so it should be 0. And the question here is, what is your annual growth rate, which means what is your annual return on an annual basis, how much you are earning. So let's start from the left, 5N. I skip I don't have it. $5,000 negative PV, 0 payment, $12,000 positive future value. You are computing I. So as you see, for my I have 19.13%. So that's your annual interest rate, which means the answer should be D, 19 point. So if you have this interest rate, you can, that's how much your investment is going to grow on annual basis. Again, if you have some challenges with financial calculator, I encourage you to go back to module 5, review the first lesson when we talk about using your calculator. So the next question, let's look at the last question, question 4. Which of the following will cause the effective annual rate to increase? So we talk about effective annual rate and how it's related to APR. So as a reminder, EAR was 1 plus APR divided by M to power of M minus 1. APR was your annual percentage rate, M was the frequency of payment or frequency of compounding, and EAR was effective annual rate. And we mentioned as the frequency of payment is going up, the EAR will go up. As the APR is going up, the EAR is going up. So these two are directly related. Now we are looking for the option which is going to increase our EAR. So let's look at the options we have. A decrease in the compounding interval. Just be careful. Decreasing compounding interval, it means the frequency of payment is going up. So for example, if you have, let's say you have one period here, so that's 1 year, year 0 to year 1. So if you decrease the compounding interval, for example, now it's 1, you can decrease the compounding interval to you're decreasing the interval, so it's from 1 to 2. So the interval now are shorter. You are decreasing the interval. Now you can decrease the interval even to a quarter, as you see from what. So what's happening here? As you are actually decreasing the interval, the frequency of payment is going up, which means the effective rate is going up. I mentioned it means actually you are increasing your M. As the M is going up, we learn that EAR is going up. So be careful with the wording. A decrease in the compounding interval, it means now you're talking about a shorter period of time. Shorter period of time, it means you have more shorter period of time, which means it's more frequent, which means you are compounding more often, which means your EAR will be higher. So for sure, A should be the answer, but why B, C, and D are not correct answer? B, an increase in the number of years of investment. Remember, EAR and APR are happening within a year. So whatever is happening within a year, the frequency is going up or down, or APR is going up or down, it impacts on EAR. It doesn't matter how long is your investments for 5 years. Investment is 5-year investment, is 10-year investment, doesn't matter. That frequency of payment within a year, that's what matters. So it's irrelevant, so B is not the answer. A decrease in annual percentage rate. So for sure, if APR is going down, your EAR also is going down. So C is not answer. D, a decrease in the frequency of compounding. I already answered that. If the frequency of compounding is going down, the EAR is going down. So just the only answer here will be A, a decrease in compounding interval, which means that you are compounding more often, which means the EAR is going up. Thank you very much. Here is Ali Talibi. Have a wonderful day. Take care. Talk to you soon.